Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? It's your man, Big B, Brien Hanley, and welcome to the Big 12 Insiders. Appreciate everybody being in here. Look, college basketball, full swing. One game last night. We'll get into that. KU did itself. They played well. Should have been able to have been good enough. I don't know. I don't want to say good enough to win, but they basically cost themselves the game. We'll talk about it. KU fans should be happy and frustrated all at the same time. And Houston kind of does what it does. So we'll talk about that game. Obviously, we're going to go over the games tonight, talk about the Big 12 a little bit and what it means in the tournament. But here we are again, people. We've got something else to talk about. Just like last week, we spoke about some of the nonsense that went on at the Arizona BYU game. We're going to talk about the nonsense that happened to Zeke Mayo and some of the stuff that was portrayed to him through social media and fans, again, just going absolutely berserk. We're going to talk about it. I told you guys before, if there's a miscarriage of justice or something that's wrong that I deem that's wrong, I'm going to talk about it, and damn it, I'm going to talk about it again. I don't want it to become that show. Well, then stop acting that way, and this won't have to become that show. But I'm going to talk about that. Make sure you guys stick around for my thoughts on the DMs and the social media and the nonsense that happened to Zeke Mayo over this weekend. So we'll get into that. So appreciate you guys. Again, as always, remember to like, follow, subscribe, continue to hit the like button, and always get in that comment section and to let me know exactly what you like, dislike, hit the notification bell so you know when Big 12 Insiders content comes out. We're going to be doing a live a little bit later on, so make sure that you, and I'm talking about today, I'm going to start trying to do those sometimes in the afternoon just to touch base with you guys, talk a little bit of college basketball. So we're going to have some fun there. We're also definitely going to be live on Thursday, so make sure you guys show up for that. Let's get into this. So first things first, Tuesday, the slate tonight, good games. Baylor at TCU. We talked about how TCU plays better at home. This is a big game for Baylor. Baylor, they're in the tournament, but they're fading. They lost 3 in a row. They won this past Saturday. This is a game they need to win. And TCU, like I mentioned, plays better at home. So big game for Baylor. I don't think they're really in danger of missing the tournament unless they just tank out and lose 3 straight, lose this one to Houston and in the first game in the Big 12 tournament. Baylor does that, they're going to be in some trouble. So I think they got to win this one. They got to get this game tonight. Moving on, best game of the night, maybe in the entire country. BYU goes to Ames, Iowa, takes on Iowa State. I am looking forward to this basketball game, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. Number one, BYU playing outstanding basketball as of late. They're shooting the ball well. Last game, they defended when I talked about and other people talked about they needed to get better defensively. Well, they showed they could be better defensively. I love this matchup. Going to Iowa State, they're healthy. And it looks like that they may be putting it back together to where they could be a Final Four contending team because what they did to Arizona and shutting them down, it was impressive. And if they can do the same thing to BYU, number one, they're going to win the game. But I like Iowa State a lot. I like BYU a lot. It's going to be a really good basketball game. West Virginia, got to win. Got to win. Just no ifs, ands, or buts. Their tournament hopes are teetering. You're going to Utah, got to win the game. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm not saying anything like that. But you know what? Life ain't easy. And you got to win this game. Period. End of story. You can't get swept here and feel good about it. I'm not saying that they're going to 100% miss the tournament if they don't win the game. I mean, we can't talk about absolutes in college basketball. That would be insane. But you need it. So go win the game, man. Go win the game. And then Arizona State going to Arizona. I think Arizona's trying to get back on track. They didn't like how they played Saturday at Iowa State. This is a game Arizona State is probably going to, for the first 10 minutes, going to try to punch you in the mouth and give you everything they got if Arizona matches that, or better yet, if Arizona punches Arizona State first and hits them the first 8 minutes of that game, the game will be over. So we'll see what happens early on in that game. Like I said, good basketball games in the Big 12 tonight. Let's talk about Monday's game. Houston beats Kansas 65-59. Look, in the comments section of yesterday's video, Houston fans, you were trying to build in excuses if you didn't look good or if you lost the game, saying that well, they're going to play a bunch of guys and it's senior night. Does Kelvin Sampson seem like the type of coach or the type of individual that would just say, you know what, we're playing some of the best basketball in the country because it's senior night, we're not really going to try to win. We're just going to play a bunch of guys. And does he seem like that type of a guy? The answer to that is no. Okay, I get it that he changed the starting lineup, which a lot of schools do, but they're not in the business of just losing basketball games for the sake of playing guys. And that's not what happened last night. They didn't do that. I don't know why you guys were trying to build in that excuse. I mean, it is what it is. Well, they didn't have anything to play for. Sure, they do. They got a lot to play for, and they still have a lot to play for. Now, they didn't shoot the ball great last night. Look, let me start by this. Kansas did everything that you would want to do at Houston, try to win a game. You outshot them from 2. You outshot them for 3. You had more assists. You held your own in the rebound department until you didn't at the end, but you held your own. However, you had 20 turnovers in a basketball game. You almost had more turnovers in this game than you had made shots, which is insane that you only lost by 6 points. Usually, if you go to Houston and you turn the ball over 20 times, you're getting blown out. Well, they didn't. They didn't. And that's when I talked about earlier when I said Kansas fans should be happy or maybe not happy, satisfied, but also disappointed. Because satisfied is because you lost. If you played a pretty good basketball game, okay, on the road against one of the best teams in the country. You were there at the end. But you couldn't get over the hump. You couldn't do enough to win the game. I mean, I don't know if you want to call them the 2 best players, Zeke Mayo and Hunter Dickinson, probably, but they can't combine for 13 turnovers and you win the game. I mean, Dickinson had 7, Mayo had 6. You're not winning. But they were there. They were right there at the end. They had their opportunity, which to me means maybe, I don't know. Houston's better than KU, and I think that's a realization that I think KU fans are just coming to now is that, look, we're not that great, and it is what it is. We're not the team that we thought we were going to be to start the season. Not just KU fans. Everybody thought KU was going to be really good this year. Everybody believed that. But they're not. They're okay. They're okay. I'll be interested to see once the tournament starts, number one, what they're seeded, because I don't think Bill Self at Kansas has ever been seeded less than 4th. I think I heard Fran Fraschilla say that last night, which that's insane, number one. But that just shows how good they have been. But it's kind of a passing of the torch, per se. Kansas doesn't rule the Big 12 conference anymore. They don't. They did for the better part of 2 decades, but they don't anymore. And it's a tough pill to swallow sometimes, but it's one they're going to have to swallow because it's just facts. It's just facts right now. Can they get it back? Sure. But as of now, then they're not in charge. When you think the best teams of the Big 12, Kansas doesn't come to mind. It just doesn't come to mind. Not for people that cover it. Now, people that don't, and they deal with, they talk about reputation. That's fine. But if you actually watch college basketball and pay attention to the Big 12, Kansas doesn't come to mind. Houston does come to mind because that's who's running the league right now, period, end of story. It's just the way that it is. But a good game by the Jayhawks last night. I will give them that. But you can't have 20 turnovers on the road. Houston just doing what they do, man. Just at the end of the game is exactly what Houston is. They're trying to run out there, or they're trying to get a stop, KU is, and they literally can't get the rebound. That's what Houston is. They couldn't complete the stop. They got them to miss shots, but all Kansas had to do, I say all they had to do, they had to get a rebound to be able to go down and try to score to cut the lead to 2, and they just couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. So it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Now, moving on, as far as the Big 12 is concerned, I think this is going to be the Big 12's time to shine. Now, we'll get into a lot of this once we get the pairings, and we'll talk about it. But I just think the Big 12 as a whole, when we get to the second weekend of the tournament, I think we're going to be one of the teams standing, or conferences standing, excuse me. I believe that. I believe now, we don't know exactly who it is. It's easy for me to say, oh, well, it's going to be, Houston, Texas Tech, Arizona, BYU, Iowa State. We're going to have all these teams in the Sweet 16, yada, yada, yada. Hell, we know how the tournament is. If West Virginia eventually gets in, they could be one of the teams in the Sweet 16. It could end up being West Virginia, Baylor, KU. I don't, who knows who it could be. But the second weekend, just like last year, the Big 12 was embarrassed. And we were embarrassed. I don't think we're going to be embarrassed this year. I really don't, people. I think this is going to be the year that the Big 12 steps forward and says, you know what? Stop talking bad about us. Stop forgetting about us because of where our location might be, yada, yada, yada. We've been the big boy on the block as far as basketball for a while. Yeah, the SEC had a really good year, and they are. You can't deny that. But we're still here too. Okay? Don't forget about us. We are still here too. So I'd like our chances in the tournament. Again, matchups, how many actually get in? Come on, West Virginia. Come on, Baylor. But I think we're going to be one of the last conferences standing when it comes down to it. And they're going to say, you know what? The Big 12 was a good conference this year, and we just undersold them. We undersold them. So I can't wait for that, man. So let's get to what I really wanted to talk about today. And quite frankly, it kind of pisses me off again. And here's the thing. Fans go overboard all the time. And when I say fans, I am a fan. And let me just break this down. I grew up and still to this day am a diehard University of Louisville basketball fan. Louisville fan in general. That's where I grew up. I've been a diehard fan. I went to Kansas State. I'm a fan. So, and I go crazy. Never has it ever dawned on me to attack a player, cuss out a player, be mad at a player. If I saw a player out at dinner, it has just never dawned on me that that's what I should do. Now, maybe I'm different because I grew up around athletics. My dad was a high school coach. I played college football and basketball, so maybe I'm different when it comes to that. So I see things in a different light. But I understand fan equals short for fanatic. I understand it because I live and die with every possession. Every possession. If you ever been to a basketball game with me, you understand that I'm right there with it. I don't care if we're up 30, down 30. Every possession, I'm in it, which I think is fine. I think it's great, actually. Not fine. I think it's great. But what fans did to Zeke Mayo over the weekend, sending racist tweets and messages and death threat messages and hoping that he dies. What the hell is wrong with you? And I'm saying that, and obviously people that are watching, I would guess nobody that's watching is the ones who did that. But if you are, what the hell is wrong with you? Now, granted, last week I talked about what happened to BYU, the game at Arizona. And I told you guys that if I saw something that I didn't believe in or thought was a miscarriage of justice or anything, I would say something. And I did. And I stand by it, and I do it 100 times out of 100. Clearly, this hits a little bit closer to home to me because of the nature of what was said. And the first point, if somebody pushes back and says, well, he could always just turn off his social media and doesn't have to have it available for people to do that to him. You're almost as bad as the idiot that said the racist stuff to him. because now you're excusing it. You're saying, well, you're victim blaming. Well, if he didn't have it available, then nobody could contact him. So I can't enjoy social media without some lunatic racist saying stuff to me. Is that what you're saying? I can't enjoy the fruits and labor of my hard work and enjoy social media because there's idiots in this world? Come on, people. Like I said, you're almost as bad as the people that sent the stuff to the kid. Now, I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible. Number one, he's been one of the bright spots of the season for KU. Has he struggled here lately? Absolutely. Did he struggle last night? Absolutely. But at no time should fans think that they should be able. Look, if you want to get on him for playing bad, you have 1,000,000% to be able to do that. You know what? You play college basketball. Number one, you get paid to play college basketball. There's criticisms that come with that, man. And you put yourself in that spotlight. You know, if you're going to take the reward, then you got to be able to deal with the criticisms too. But this isn't criticism. This is racist, ignorant hate. Okay? You can talk and say that I sucked and play better, shoot better. What are you thinking? Whatever. But when you cross the line, that's when it becomes ridiculous. Now, here's the thing. This isn't the first time that this has happened to somebody. This isn't new. And nobody's really talking about it that much. I'm glad he brought it to light. My point and my problem is that we brush it aside and act like, well, it's no big deal because it's the norm. Hold on a second. What do you mean? And number one, why is it the norm? Why are we acting like it's the norm? That's not normal behavior, or at least it shouldn't be normal behavior. So when we just brush it aside, oh, it's not that big deal. It is a big deal. How do you think he felt? He never would have put anything out there if you don't think that hurt this kid's feelings. He never would have said anything. But it did. It had an effect on him. How do you know that this didn't affect the next game that he plays, or the next thing that he plays, or the next interaction that he has with a fan? What if a kid comes up to him and he says, hey, man, I'm sorry I can't sign your autograph. Some idiots, are sending me stuff. I don't know if it's you. It's stuff like that. I just don't give passes for ignorant behavior. And the more that we talk about it, because, see, some people get triggered when you just bring up the subject of race. People get triggered, and they back up into their corners, and they have to fight. And they back up, they retreat. But you can bring up the word race. You can talk about something that's racist and be on the right side of it without it being an issue at all. Think about that for a second. You can talk about it. You can bring it up if you're on the right side of it and there's no issues. But when people try to dismiss it, or when people try to excuse it, that's when, number one, I have a problem. And that's where most people that are being offended by it has the problem. Because we can see the ignorant people that do it. They're ignorant. But it's the people that try to brush it aside and act like, well, it's no big deal. Those are the people that are the problem. I've said it for years, and I'll always say it. You're as bad, just as bad. Because you think it's not that big a deal. Well, it shouldn't affect you. Well, it does. Words shouldn't affect you. Yeah, come on, man. This is real life. Words affect people. Just because you say they shouldn't doesn't mean that they don't. This is real life that we're talking about here. So I don't understand that aspect of it. Again, maybe I'm being naive. And if I am, you guys get in the comments and tell me. Because it's just never occurred to me to be mad at a player so much that I would contact them through social media and say anything to them other than, number one, I wouldn't contact them at all. Like, even to say good game, great, that's just not my thing. But to go to those lengths Like, number one, how bad does your life have to be? Because clearly you have a bad life, or how bad of a human being are you? And social media is a huge part of it, because the fear before, you could send letters and maybe they got a letter, maybe they didn't. It is what it is. Because, like I said, this isn't new. But if you don't open all your fan mail and all that stuff, then you never do know. Social media has made it so the access to people is so much more that you can get access, and then you hide the cowardly hiding behind burner accounts on Twitter, fake accounts on Instagram. Just the cowardly acts are twofold, I should say. I mean, everybody has something to say, which I love social media, but it's me. I don't hide behind, the fact of any of it. If I want to say something, I just do. I've even had somebody argue with me on social media and telling me that, well, the reason that I have a burner account is because my company won't allow me to talk on social media. They literally said that. So my first thought was, because I'm pretty quick-witted, so let me get this straight. Your company doesn't trust you enough, or better yet, you can't be trusted enough to have a conversation or even an argument on social media as yourself because you're going to say something ignorant? That's what this has come to. You can't, Brien Hanley, can't have a conversation with somebody or an argument with somebody without saying something ignorant on social media that would get you fired from your job. That's where we are as a society. And to me, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous that you can't have conversations without going that far with it. But because you can hide, because you can be a coward, people will do that. It's just like the mouse. You give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a box. And you give people a little bit of space to be a coward, to say anything that they want, they're going to take it. And that's what social media has done. And that's what this is about. I am disgusted with it. And just quite frankly, it just makes me mad. It pisses me off is what it does. It just pisses me off that we still have to deal with this kind of stuff. We still have to deal with it because you took a bad shot, because you played a bad game, because you had a bad couple of weeks. That's what this has come to. And it is a big deal. Before anybody says that it's not a big deal, and I'll go back and forth with anybody that says that it isn't, I'll go back and forth with you. Hopefully you won't hide and be a coward, and we can see who you are. Because I mentioned it before. The people that brush it aside and say that it's no big deal, you're almost as culpable as the person who actually says it, because now you're allowing the behavior. If more people just said something, the better off we would be. I apologize. It fires me up. Again, I know this hits a little bit closer to home for me, but truth is truth and right is right. And I told you all before, if something is wrong, I'm going to say something. If something is right, I'm going to say something. And I don't think this is right. I think it's a miscarriage of justice. And I feel bad for the kid. And hopefully he snaps out of it. And hopefully he goes on a run over the next couple of weeks and plays the best basketball that he's ever played in college. That's literally what I hope for the kid. And I'm not a KU fan, but I hope that he absolutely does that, because nobody deserves it. Nobody deserves that. That you just don't deserve that kind of stuff. It's a weak point in our society that I know that I personally can't fix. But again, if I see something, I'm saying something. And I saw something and I'm saying something. So appreciate y'all bearing with me, man. Again, it's just who I am to my core. Don't like the nonsense. Don't like the disrespect. But I appreciate you all hanging in there with me. Thank you again for always showing up and showing out. Let me just take a deep breath because I got pissed off and I didn't mean to get that pissed off. So I apologize. Either way, man, I'll be on a little bit later live. Make sure you guys like this video, comment on the video. Big games, like I said, tonight in the Big 12, man. I appreciate you guys, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.